My daughter is refusing to talk to me after I found out she has a boyfriend and has been drinking. Daughter's perspective. For as long as I can remember, my parents have had unrealistic expectations from me. This is what pushed me to try to do well in school, and always try to please my parents. I always did my best to get the highest scores in tests, and even joined a club through which I got a job offer in high school. But once my brothers left the house, my parents began treating me like a live-in maid. I would get home tired, and yet I was supposed to do the dishes for the entire house before resting. If it was a weekend or a holiday, I was supposed to clean the house spotless. Notice how I said I was supposed to? That's because they acted like this was why they gave birth to me. I felt like I was born to do chores for them. Over time, this routine took a mental toll on me and nearly affected my grades. I tried telling them that this isn't fair. That just because my brothers are now independent, I shouldn't be expected to take care of the house by myself. My dad shut me down by saying, "Your mother is disabled, so you need to help out as much as you can. And don't forget that you were born when we were past our prime, so we sacrificed a lot to raise you. You need to be understanding and grateful." For the record, my mother is not disabled. She has a condition that makes her bones weaker than normal, but in no way does it limit her movement around the house. In fact, whenever there's a party, she is the first one on the dance floor and the last one to leave. Also, even if what my dad said was true, why couldn't he help me out himself? He wasn't working since my brothers were sending him money, so he had plenty of time. But no, they sat watching TV as I was ordered to keep doing what I'm supposed to do. Now, I put up with this because I was eventually going to move out and this would be how they'd remember me, the good daughter that never said no. But then one day I overheard my dad talking on the phone. He was describing what kind of future he wants me to have. I mean, she's going to go to college but then she'll have to settle down. I'm going to find a husband for her by the time she's 24 and have her live in our house. After hearing that, I realized that staying in this house any longer than I had to was going to destroy my life. I wasn't going to let my dad decide my future for me, so I chose a college that was too far for me to travel daily. Unfortunately, there was another incident that told me I needed to get out as soon as possible. A little after I turned 18, I was invited to my best friend's birthday party. I really wanted to go since it was her 18th birthday, and she had been there for my 18th. My parents knew about this, and assured me that I could go. But then, literally on the day of the party, as I was getting ready to leave, my dad tells me that I need to take my mother to a doctor's appointment. I was understandably confused, because they knew today was the day of the party, so why would they schedule the appointment at the same time? I told him that there's no way I'm going to the doctor's right now. And then he said some crap about my mother being my first priority. I mean, of course she is, but that doesn't mean that I have to abandon my plans every time she needs something. However, my father didn't want to listen to me and basically made it so that I couldn't leave the house at all unless I took my mother with me. Now, while I did as he asked, I was secretly starting to plan my escape. In the back of my mind, I knew that I was going to leave them in a way that they'd think I abandoned them. But I just couldn't take their abuse of power anymore. That weekend, I went over to my best friend's house to apologize for not showing up at the party, and told her I'd make up for it once I was free, and we would have a girls' night out. We hung out as more of our friends showed up, and she offered me a drink from the party. However, I refused as I wasn't old enough to drink, and didn't want to anger my parents. My brothers had been allowed to drink since they were 17, but I was told to wait till 21, and I didn't have a problem with it. I thought my dad would be proud of me, but as soon as he saw that my friend had posted pictures with alcohol in them, he completely blew up on me. He accused me of being a rebellious girl and didn't even give me a chance to explain. So in my spite, I said that if it's going to happen in college, might as well do it now. What's the difference anyway? It was only an example that I made while trying to point out his hypocrisy. But then he did something I would have never imagined. He said that I wasn't allowed to go to college anymore and tore my acceptance/scholarship letter in front of my eyes. I hadn't made any copies, so I was really angry but also very sad that my own father would do such a thing. I just fell to my knees while crying, trying to pick up the torn pieces. I think my dad said something about me having a boyfriend, but I was too busy crying to pay attention. Once he left, I immediately packed my bags. I couldn't stay in this house anymore or I would lose my mind. I went to a friend's house and contacted the college administration to try and explain the situation. Thankfully, they were very understanding. I've been staying here for over a month now, and have no plans on returning ever again until they apologize for everything.
My daughter is refusing to talk to me after I found out she has a boyfriend and has been drinking. She ran off with her boyfriend and cut off all contact with us, and I want her to come back and apologize. I have 4 kids with my wife, 3 sons and a daughter. Our sons were born when we were in our late 20s, but our daughter came very late, around when I was 40. I'd like to add that I love all of them equally and would never discriminate. My first son began his own business in another country and the others more or less followed his footsteps. My daughter turned 18 very recently and we were all very excited for her. She is the star child in our family, the one that never disappointed us. She even got a job in high school so she wouldn't have to ask us for money, something that none of our sons did. But the college that she applied for is too far for her to travel from home, so she would have to stay at the college. My wife has partial paralysis and has trouble moving on her own. So with me reaching the old age of 60, we need a lot of help around the house. Our daughter has been happily fulfilling our needs so far. But I'm worried that her choice of college is intentional and she just wants to stop taking care of us. The reason for that is her recent attitude. Last Friday, I asked her to take her mother to a doctor's appointment. She already has her license, so this shouldn't have been a problem for her. However, she told me that she had plans and so we should reschedule the appointment. This was the first time anything like this had ever happened. I was reasonably mad at her, and told her, you need to cancel your plans, young lady, because your mother is your utmost priority. She made a face that said, are you kidding me? She started complaining because it was one of her close friends' birthdays, and that it wasn't fair because her plans were made weeks in advance. I told her that it didn't matter, she should know her priorities better. After some more back and forth, I made her back off and she did what I had asked her to do, which was doing her daughterly duty. After she left, I told myself to calm down and that she is just going through her period. Me and my wife were already out of our prime when she was born, so we had to sacrifice a lot to take care of her. And we had raised our daughter with a goal in mind, that she would take care of us in return when we are older. I was certain that we had instilled good values in her. Things calmed down for a day or two, but then I received some horrific news over the weekend. Our daughter had gone to a party to make up for the birthday she had missed, and she had decided to have a drink with her so-called friends. I was very disappointed in her, as I had made it clear that she wasn't allowed to drink until she was 21. Even my wife couldn't believe her audacity to go directly against our teachings. I confronted her about it in the morning, and her reply was, if it's going to happen in college, might as well do it now. What's the difference anyway? I don't know where she got this attitude from, but I knew I had to shut it down fast. I told her that if drinking is what you're going to college for, then I won't let you go there. You showed me that you aren't ready for the real world by doing this. She looked at me like she had seen a ghost. You can't possibly not let me go to college, that is not happening. She argued that she was already an adult, and could make her own choices. So I told her, you are under this roof, meaning that you are under my rules. To show her that I was serious, I brought her college acceptance letter and tore it in half in front of her eyes. She broke down in tears. Why would you do that? What the hell is wrong with you? But actions have consequences and she has to deal with them. Instead of comforting her, I taunted her by saying, don't tell me you also have a boyfriend now. Maybe that's why you were so eager to drink, because he's been influencing you in a bad way. Then she called me a jerk and admitted that she indeed had a boyfriend. I was flabbergasted. Now I was certain that I had made the correct decision by punishing her. She wasn't listening to her caring and thoughtful parents, and her boyfriend probably only wanted her body. I told her what was on my mind, and she told me I had no idea what I was talking about. By that point, I was tired and was having trouble standing up. So I went to lay on my bed, ignoring whatever she was trying to say. I thought that she would come around, and realized that I was only doing what was best for her. But 1 week later, she disappeared from the house. She ran off with her boyfriend, and it's been 1 month, and I've had absolutely no contact with her. Edit, my wife has had infrequent contact with her. Edit 2, as long as my daughter is safe and sound I'm not going to interfere. It's her life, and if she chooses so, she will have to learn the hard way in life. My girlfriend humiliated me and I want to break up with her, plus update. I have been with my girlfriend Carly for 4 years and I wanted to marry this woman, until last night. Carly has been under more stress from work and family during the last few months. Her dad has cancer and it hasn't been easy on her. She's been drinking more and more, and while I don't mind her drinking, it's how she gets when she's intoxicated is where I begin to have issues. She has a tendency to get pretty mean and say some awful things, talking about my appearance or how small my PP is. She makes me feel like I'm not enough for her emotionally or in the bedroom. She is almost always apologetic the next morning, and will spend the next few days after that trying to fix things, but will turn around and do it again when she drinks. It really came to a head last night when I took her and her friend out to a local bar that's popular. I volunteered to be their DD for the night. She's driven intoxicated before and I didn't want her to make that choice again. I told her that I didn't want her to drink too much tonight, and she agreed that she wouldn't. The bar was packed when we got there, so we all went and sat at the bar and ordered some food and drinks. They were enjoying themselves and I watched the game while they drank and enjoyed themselves. I got up and went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I noticed my girlfriend was getting loud and her friend screamed PP sleeve while laughing. She then said, as I went up and was in earshot, that her ex was the biggest she had and she missed it. I pretended not to hear it, because I knew she was getting intoxicated. I touched her back and sat down at the bar again, before the guy sitting at the table grabbed both our attention and asked us if I was the PP sleeve guy, and I immediately felt like I was gonna be sick. These guys are laughing at me and I asked Carly if she was serious. She kept laughing. So I just grabbed my keys and walked out. I left both her and her friend there at the bar and I drove home. I immediately packed up my essential stuff and I went to stay with a close friend for a few days. I didn't get any texts from Carly until about an hour after I left them there, asking where I was. I then got a bunch of missed calls and texts that weren't anything but angry. I answered one call and she was still slurring her words and I heard she was still in the bar, so I hung up and turned off my ringer. I woke up to a stream of apology texts and more missed phone calls. She apologized and said she messed up and was wondering when I was coming home, that I satisfied her and that I'm more than enough for her, that she'll make this right if I come home. Update: I drove back to our apartment to get my stuff and my cat the next morning. My ex Eva came with me. My ex and I are childhood friends and Carly knows this. I told Eva to wait in the car and I would text her when I needed help with things. I walked in the apartment and Carly was sitting on the couch crying. She saw me and ran over to hug me. She immediately started apologizing. She said she was sorry and that she knew she messed up, that her friend told her what she said. I asked her if she cheated on me, She immediately said no and offered up access to everything of hers. I told her that's not what I wanted. She told me that she didn't mean what she said, that I'm more than enough for her and she only knows she said the thing about her ex because her friend told her. She said that definitely wasn't true, that she didn't miss him at all and I'm the man she wants to marry. I told her that how she humiliated me was something I just can't get over, that her addiction and how she treats me when she's intoxicated has decimated any romantic feelings I've had. She said she understood, and that she was sorry for everything. The pain in her voice, I knew she was remorseful. I told her that I needed to go no contact for a while, that even though I still love her because we spent years together, with many positive memories, that she needs help and I can't continue on like this. She was crying the entire time. I gave her a hug and I told her that I hope we can reconnect one day, but that she needs to work on herself and clean herself up for herself, and only her, not for anyone else. I texted Eva and I told Carly that Eva was letting me crash and that she's been supportive. Carly was okay with this. I told Carly that I'll pay the last 2 months rent on our lease, then it's on her to find a new place or to renew the lease herself. Eva thought it was a good idea, in her words, so she knows even more what she lost in me. I don't mind, I already budgeted for it anyway. We got back to Eva's and I honestly felt free. I went to block Carly's number and I saw she sent me some texts, not trying to fight for me back, but just saying how I helped her and saying that she was sorry for everything. She said that she's going to take my advice and that she wishes the best for me. I did screenshot the text, but I deleted the message itself. Eva said that we should celebrate, and she made us some Bloody Marys. We turned on some music. Eva and spent time drinking and talking about memories we had. Eva and I began to talk about more personal things. She was way more hammered than me and she kissed me. I was into it for a few seconds before my brain took over and I pushed her away. I told her she's too out of it and she doesn't know what she's doing. I helped her get to bed and I crashed on the couch. I woke up to my cat jumping on me and Eva was making bacon in the kitchen. Before I even opened my mouth, she said that she was sorry about last night, that she knew better and that she didn't mean to make me uncomfortable. I told her she didn't and that I only stopped it because she was intoxicated. We kissed again in the kitchen and we went out to dinner that night. I paid for it to thank her and things actually got spicy when we got back that night. It was honestly the best I've felt in bed in a long time. I think she was just stroking my ego, but she said it was the best she's had in years with anyone. My confidence is through the roof right now. My jealous sister-in-law made a comment about my dead daughter, and everyone is telling me to forgive her. Plus update. My jealous sister-in-law made a comment about my dead daughter, and everyone is telling me to forgive her. My wife and I have been together for 5 years and we have always known that we wanted a big family. Because we were Christian, we didn't start until after marriage. She got pregnant 3 months after we were married and we had our first baby boy. Only a year later after our first was born, we had our daughter. A year after that we had our second son. And finally 2 years after that we had our second daughter. However, this pregnancy was different from the last ones. During this pregnancy, my wife was constantly complaining about her back pains and how she was constantly sore all the time. During the delivery, the doctors realized that she had a tumor in her uterus and they had to do immediate surgery. Luckily, my wife made it out incredibly healthy and well, but the doctors informed us that it would be impossible for us to have any more kids. She had postpartum depression after finding this out because she felt like she was letting me down and not giving me the big family I wanted. But I assured her that it was absolutely fine. Even with my constant reassurance, her depression didn't get any better for a couple more months. She was supposed to get maternity leave for only 3 months, but decided to stay 7 months. I decided to reach out to my brother because we were very close. He has always been a great role model and older brother to me. However, his wife seems to not like me or my wife for some reason. She is always comparing her kids to ours and making comments about how unhealthy our firstborn boy's life is since he is already a national chess master. She says that he should be enjoying his life doing kid stuff, not on some geeky board. But we have already had this conversation with our son and he absolutely loves chess, and the fact that he is good at it doesn't change anything in his average life. She also likes to make comments about my daughters as well. But me and my wife don't seem to mind for the most part. My brother says it because she is pregnant so she is being emotional. My brother helped us out a lot with general things around the house, which made life a lot easier. Now, I absolutely love my wife and she is the greatest human and mother to live on the face of this planet. However, she would sometimes be a bit uncautious with the kids. This didn't happen with our first baby, but I think with all her emotions bottled up after the second pregnancy it made her a bit emotionally preoccupied. Sometimes she would forget the stove was on and I had to turn it off to make sure the house didn't explode, but I never told her about how she needed to be a bit more aware because I knew she was already struggling with so much. That's when it happened. One day while I was at work, my wife decided to take the kids to the park. My daughter got hit by a car, and after 6 hours of emergency surgery, she sadly did not make it. My wife doesn't have a good recollection of what happened, nor do I want to talk about it on this platform, but it was the most traumatic experience of my life. My wife and I have been dealing with it for the past 4 months, and even though we are suffering inside, we have to keep up for our kids. Now, this is also about the time that my brother's wife invited all of our family to a pool party at their place. My wife and I thought it would be a good idea for our kids to socialize with their cousins. My whole family was there and they were all extremely supportive of me and my wife. They all gave their condolences and were super polite about it. Except for my brother's wife. Apparently, according to my brother, it was again just the fact that her emotions were out of whack because of her pregnancy, but my wife never acted like this. Still, we all tried to enjoy ourselves, and the kids were certainly having a great time at my brother's gigantic pool. That's until the kids started playing pranks on us. The kids pushed me into the pool while I was by the edge. I did think this was funny, but then they started taking things too far by damaging me and my wife's brand new Tesla. We calmly explained to all of the kids, including my nephews, why these types of pranks were not acceptable. In the middle of me lecturing them, my brother's wife stepped in and started shouting at me and my wife. She told us that we have no grounds to talk to their children, and that it was probably all my children's fault anyway. My wife obviously was not having it and said that the children were the ones that actually did the damage. Things escalated more and more until some other family members came to see the commotion. That's when my brother's wife dropped a bomb and said, "Maybe this is why your daughter is dead." My wife started crying and left, whereas I stayed and demanded an explanation. What happened next was even crazier though. Update: after my nephews and kids tried pulling a prank and damaged my brand new Tesla, I tried lecturing my kids and my nephews. But in the middle of my lecture my brother's wife stepped in and got into an argument with my wife, and it got to a point where my brother's wife made a comment about our dead daughter, who recently passed away. My wife left crying whereas I stayed and demanded an explanation. My brother and parents had to take me to a different room to call me parents, and I demanded that my brother go and make his wife give one hell of an apology. My brother and parents kept on repeating to me that although they understand the situation, that my brother's wife was pregnant, and making her apologize would be very bad for her considering her condition. They also said that it wasn't her fault that she had to get such hormonal differences, and that I should forgive her. At that point I was shocked. My brother, who was my role model and the person that was one of the most sympathetic people, had just told me to forgive someone that just insulted my wife and disrespected my dead daughter. Furthermore, my parents were okay with this. I had never ever seen this side of my brother or my parents, and so that's when I gave them an ultimatum. I told them either his wife would apologize and not be invited to further family functions, or else my brother and parents would never be able to see their nephews or grandchildren ever again. I told them that we would leave the state and go absolutely no contact with them for the rest of their life. That's when they paused and looked anxious, and I could tell that if it was taking this long for them to decide, it wasn't worth staying for their response. I took my kids and left the house. That's when my brother texted in the family group chat. But what he texted shocked me to my core and I couldn't believe what was going to happen next.
My perfect boyfriend has awful friends who talked crap about me at my birthday party. They were angry that they got caught and tried to manipulate me. My boyfriend and I have been dating for a year, so when my birthday rolled around and we had a big dinner party, I invited a handful of his friends, including one of his best friends, Rita. She became my friend too and I thought she was pretty cool. I've hung out with her a couple of times before and she seemed like a good person. Because there were a bunch of people at the dinner, I spent a lot of the night jumping between tables and friends. Also, given the number of my boyfriend's friends there and the available seats at that table, I actually ended up sitting at a different table than him/them, but figured that was better than just having one of his friends sitting with a bunch of my friends that they didn't know. I didn't think this was a problem since I still managed to spend plenty of time with my boyfriend. Late into the night though, we decided to go to a concert, and Rita was one of the people from the party who joined along. Rita's roommate ended up meeting with us at the concert since she wasn't able to attend the dinner. I have always thought I had a good relationship with both girls and have always felt like we get along really well, but they thought otherwise. It happened when I went to the bathroom and the two girls unknowingly and when I was in one of the stalls. I have a distinctive name, so it became very clear when they started talking about me. They talked about me and my relationship with my boyfriend, how I seem miserable with him, and how we aren't a good fit because I didn't spend enough time with him during the party. He was going to spend the night at my place, so it didn't even matter if we spent a little bit of time together at dinner. But they kept talking bad about my relationship, and often, the things they would say would be directly contrary to nice things they've said to me or my boyfriend's face. For example, I went to a holiday party, but left early because I didn't feel well. They said that because of that, I wasn't good enough for my boyfriend, but the day after that party, my boyfriend mentioned how the two of them had gone out of their way to tell him how much they love me, etc. I opened the stall and their jaws dropped when they saw me. I let them know that I heard everything, and they tried to tell me I had misunderstood and they didn't say anything mean. I told them that what they said was hurtful, and particularly inappropriate since they were doing it at my birthday party after I had spent the night going out of my way to be a good host to them. I also told them that I'm never going to be a girlfriend who hangs off her boyfriend all the time. We are both confident in our relationship and don't have issues being independent, so they need to get over that. Our relationship might not look the way they want it to, but that me and my boyfriend are very close, very strong, and very in love. I ended up leaving the bathroom and giving my boyfriend a heads up that I was upset because of Rita. Rita then ran to pull him aside to give her side. He was honestly really upset with what she said about us and told her he needed to drop it and had no business saying those things, especially on what was supposed to be a night celebrating me. The girls ended up pulling me aside to apologize, but it felt very fake because it seemed they were sorry they got caught rather than being sorry for what they said. It was also clear they only apologized because my boyfriend was upset with them, so ultimately, they didn't care about my feelings. A week passed since then and Rita's roommate texted to apologize, but I haven't heard anything from Rita. I felt most betrayed by her because I'm much closer with her. I have spent the last year really liking these girls and thinking they're great, kind, etc. So this was a big blow and I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to trust them at all. In any other situation, I would just cut these people loose because they've proven to be bad company, but I also recognize that they're important to my boyfriend and I feel this obligation to accept their apology or play nice or say it's fine when it's really not. It's a very uncomfortable position and I'm not totally sure how I'm supposed to proceed.
My racist mother-in-law wore a wedding dress to my wedding, so I ran away with my husband's baby. My mother-in-law never seemed thrilled about her son being with a woman of color. They come from an Italian family, and usually, it's custom for them to marry within their own culture. Every time I see her she commits microaggressions. One time she even made a comment saying at a family barbecue that if anyone ever needed chicken or watermelon they should contact me. I was a bit offended and I asked her to stop making backhanded compliments towards me. My boyfriend at the time always acknowledged that what his mom was doing was wrong and that it was unjustified. However, it's not part of their culture to cut her some slack, and that she wasn't used to it. My husband and his family were extremely close, so I had to constantly put up with his mother's disapproval and microaggressions. My boyfriend had taken me and his family back to their hometown in Italy, and at one of the best restaurants with the whole family he proposed. I gladfully said yes, but after that his mother made a huge scene. She started ranting about how she never pictured her son marrying me and that she always thought this was a phase. She soon started crying and left, and everyone started looking at us in the restaurant. I was still overjoyed with happiness because my fiancé had proposed, but it was a little bittersweet. However, what my mother-in-law would do at my wedding would turn out to be 100x worse. It was around this time, though, that I got pregnant. I shared the news with my husband, and he didn't seem as happy as I expected. He told me that his mom would definitely not approve of not having Italian grandkids, and that it would make the whole situation worse, and strain his relationship with his mom. We got into a big fight over this, and we rarely have fights, but it felt like he was putting his mother over me and his child. The wedding planning was awful and it took so much out of me because I was a perfectionist for these types of things. Also, the time pressure did not help. I wanted to do the wedding as soon as possible so that I could fit into my wedding dress. On our last day in Italy, a relative of my fiancé was throwing a party to re-celebrate his engagement, and usually I'm a big drinker, but I guess it was a bit suspicious when I kept on refusing to drink throughout the night. Some of the people picked up on it, and after a while my mother-in-law pulled me aside and demanded to know if I was pregnant. I told her that I was, and she said she could never accept a non-Italian grandbaby. After that, me and my husband left early and I told him what happened, and proposed that if his mother continued to act like this toward me then we should disinvite her from our wedding, but he immediately opposed the idea. At this point I was starting to get sick of how my husband always picked my mother-in-law's side. Over the next couple of months, I had no contact with my mother-in-law and refused to communicate with my husband about her. The next time I saw her was at my wedding, but I never expected to see what she would come to my wedding in. As I was getting ready, one of my bridesmaids said that my mother-in-law was in a big white wedding dress. I couldn't go out yet because it wasn't customary for the husband to see the bride before walking down the aisle. So I asked my friends to go and kick her out. That's when my mother-in-law barged in and started ranting about how I was such a selfish bitch that didn't understand anything about tradition, and that it was customary for the mother to wear white. I knew this was completely a lie because I have tons of Italian friends, and even to them this was wrong. My husband heard about all the commotion happening and long story short he said that it wasn't a big deal, and that I should just tolerate it because it was my big day and her wearing a wedding dress makes her happy and shouldn't diminish my happiness. I responded saying that I can't tolerate this for the rest of my life, and I said either we resolve this now or never. He said that he needed time to think, and that he could never go against his mother. That's when I hit my breaking point. My wife finds our female neighbor attractive and is acting strange after finding out about our open relationship. I think she wants to sleep with her. Last year my wife and I moved into a new house. My wife, Amy, had a little bit more trouble finding a job locally than I did, and originally our shifts were a little bit weird, but after a few months things worked out and we both managed to get on similar schedules. During that time my wife made the acquaintance of our neighbors when she managed to forget her house keys in the morning and was locked out. They waved her over and let her come inside to hang out with them while she waited on me to get home and have been very friendly with us ever since. Later that week, we were invited over to meet them and that was the first time that I met them in person. I sort of had to stop my jaw from hitting the floor when I saw these people. Ray and Maria were almost out of a movie. I wasn't exactly surprised to find out that Maria was a model. As it turned out, Ray and I hit it off and so did Maria and Amy. They became our go-to-friend couple in the area since we didn't really know anyone, and we met their circle of friends. We hang out at least once a week as couples and Amy spends time with Maria far more frequently than that. They've become very close friends, and I think that Ray and I are getting pretty close too. This weekend, we were out shopping and Amy spotted Ray walking at a distance and tried to point him out to me. Then she paused and looked shocked. Plain as day it was Ray getting out of his car and kissing a woman. A woman who was definitely not Maria. Amy was furious, just downright ballistic. I had to stop her from going over to immediately confront Ray. Not because it wasn't the right thing to do, but because I didn't want Amy to get arrested for assaulting Ray or the woman that he was with. When she cooled down, she said that we had to tell Maria immediately. I agreed. So we went home and Amy invited Maria over. She said that she had something serious to talk about. Maria came over and looked happy to see us, but seemed a little bit confused about the heavy tone. Amy sat her down and explained what we had seen. Maria didn't look mad. She just asked what color the woman's hair was. It was red. Then Maria laughed. We were thrown off guard at that. Amy repeated that she had seen them kissing, not really processing it. Maria said that wasn't a problem, that the woman was one of the mutual play partners that they shared. That was when Maria basically said, well, the cat is out of the bag. She explained that she and Ray were not strictly monogamous. Sometimes they had singular partners that they played with together, sometimes they swapped partners, sometimes they did other things, but always with each other's consent and with both of them having veto power over the other's partner. I was genuinely surprised and so was Amy. Maria thought our reaction was sweet, but also hilarious. She mentioned it to Ray, who also thought the same thing. He came by later with pizza and wine, and we ate dinner together. He said he was relieved that we had told Maria and that it was also a bit of weight off of their shoulders that they didn't have to keep walking on eggshells about their lifestyle. I asked why they had kept it a secret. Ray explained that they had ground rules and lines that they didn't cross. They tried to be careful in explaining about their non-monogamy with monogamous people because it could come across as an invitation, that this kind of thing wasn't for everyone, and it might be seen as trying to push their way of